In this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to color your image, and we're going to first color it using, it's similar to monochromatic colors, but we're going to be picking colors off of an image. We're going to make swatches off of that image, okay? And then those are what we're going to be using for the color. And then we're going to do another color image, and we'll bring in another image to pick colors from, okay? And then we're going to enlarge that to poster size and add trim marks, okay? So that's what we'll be doing. So let's go back to where we were, to where your last, where the last tutorial ended, okay? And basically, you should be at this stage here. And one of the first things we're going to do is we no longer need the character palette now that we have the text, okay? And then the next thing I'm going to do too is I'm going to get rid of this template. We don't need it anymore, okay? So we'll just delete that layer with the template on it. And then I'm going to actually go in here and rename this layer with the text. Just call it text, okay? So we now have a text layer, and we know what that is. I'm going to unlock all my layers, and then I'm going to come up to the text layer here and make a new layer. And I'm not even going to name it, but what we're going to do is you're going to need to download this file that I'm going to be bringing in. I'm just going to place it. This will be a file that will be in your D2L class, and it will be called image 1, okay? And we're going to just place this. We're not going to place it as a template. We're going to just place it, okay? And so you're going to see this, and then you're going to click, and then it will place the image in, okay? And this is just something I picked off Instagram just for the color, okay? I thought these colors would be kind of appropriate for our illustration. And so we could, when we color an image, there's all different ways to color an image in Illustrator, you know? You could just pick a shape and then start picking colors here, down here, like this. There's nothing wrong with that, okay? You could also double click inside the color palette, and you got this, and we can view this any number of ways, but you could pick off colors this way if you wanted to. All right, I'm going to undo that. So those are a couple of different ways to color something quickly. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually show you something I just recently learned. I learned this because I saw this quick little reel on Instagram, and I thought, oh, that's cool. And then I went onto YouTube and watched the video, and I thought I'd never done this before. I thought it would be really interesting to do. So what I'm going to do is we're going to have this image selected, and we're going to go up to Object, and we're going to create mosaic. Now we can't do that. It won't let us do it, okay? Because we've got to first embed it, okay? So we got to, up in your control palette, you should see embed, okay? And if you don't have your control palette up, make sure you have it up. Here's the control palette, by the way. Just turn it off and on. And we're going to hit embed. Like I said, you got to select the image, because otherwise if you don't, it's not there, okay? Hit embed. So that embeds it so that we don't have to worry about it being linked. But next, keep it selected, and we'll go to create object mosaic, okay? And I have set this up for 4x4. You can put in more if you want to play around with this a little bit more. But we basically just click OK after this, and what it does is it creates this set of swatches, okay? Now here's the deal. These swatches, I'm going to pull this over here. It creates this on top of here, all right? And what we're going to do is some of these swatches are the same color. Like these two are the same. I don't know if any of these are down here are similar, but what I'm going to start doing is I'm going to ungroup this. That's Shift Command G, okay. And if you're on PC, it's Shift Control G, not Z, but Shift Control G if you're on PC. And then I'm going to deselect for a minute, and then I'm going to come back in, and I'm going to select the ones that I want to use, and there's a bunch of different colors here, and I know it's kind of hard to see what you're choosing, but what we're gonna basically do is, I'm gonna re-choose these again. I'm gonna choose this one. I'm gonna choose that one. I'm gonna choose this one, this one, this one, this one, this one, and this one. I'd probably do that one too. I think this one's very similar to this, and that's kind of similar to that. And then we'll do the two darkest colors here. So that'll give us quite a few colors there. And then we're going to go to our swatches palette. Now, in one of the videos, we actually, I think it was the first tutorial here, I showed about the swatches palette and how I drug it and placed it up underneath my color palette. So your swatches palette, you should be able to find it there. If not, you can go up to Windows and go all the way down here, and you'll see swatches, okay? But anyway, mine's located here. I'm just going to click here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to click this little, looks like a file folder, okay? It says New Swatch Group. And we're going to click that, and then, swatch group. We can name it if we want to, but I'm not going to name it. And what it does is it creates this. Creates our swatches from that image, okay? Which is awesome. And then what I'm going to play around with is, just to help me out, I'm going to move some of these, because you can move them. I'm going to deselect, and then we're going to move some of these so that we can have the lighter colors over here. Okay, so you can always rearrange your swatches like this if you've ever worked with swatches before. Okay, put that there. Put this up in here. Okay, and this is getting pretty close to, maybe this color goes, and see that these two are very similar. You can always delete. You can always delete a swatch if you need to. Okay, and you do that by clicking on it and hit the trash can there. Now the reason why it's doing this is because I have that selected. I'm going to deselect that, and see, it's not doing it anymore. Anyway, once we do that, we don't need these anymore. So I'm actually just going to delete this whole layer here, all right, just to get it out of the way. So we'll delete selection, yes. The other thing I could do, too, before I delete that is I could be coloring by selecting a shape and just hitting my eyedropper, and we could pick color off that way, too. That is typically how I usually color images, by the way, is I'll just drop in a bunch of images I like the color from, and then I just go around and start choosing color. But I thought I would go about doing this with this swatch method, okay? So anyway, like I said, let me get rid of layer 7 there. Delete. And then what we're going to do is we're going to zoom in here, and a lot of these colors are similar, meaning that I try to color them the same percentage of black. So we could start off by playing around with our magic wand. Okay, so I'm gonna come over here to my magic wand and double click it, and bring the tolerance down to 2, because we don't want to select, or even 1. I'll bring it down to 1. Therefore, if we click on a color, if there's something similar, see, I clicked on this and it picked up this one too. We can color it. I'm just going to color it maybe one of these colors, okay? And then we'll go to the shadow one, and we'll color that a darker shadow color, maybe like that. And see, this is what I love about Illustrator, is it's so fast at coloring. I might go back to here and bring that down to this, okay? It's just so fast to color stuff, especially if you think about things ahead of time, like trying to keep because if I had just willy-nilly colored or this originally, like colored these shapes by just, choosing, moving this and maybe make this 22% and maybe make another one at 33, it makes it a lot harder. That's why I was very specific in how I colored this, okay, to begin with, or actually picking values, okay? So that's one of the reasons I work like this, is because it's so fast. I'm going to just click this background shape, and then we'll go back to my swatches over here and pick a color here. Maybe we'll pick that color. I like that. Okay. The sky, we'll pick one of the probably the lightest color to begin with, so that pops off. These shadows, and so you can use your magic wand, and I think Y is the keyboard shortcut, yes, and it'll pick up everything that is that color, and we'll make this a darker color like this. Oh, okay, make it even darker like that, okay? And it picked up a bunch of them. But we can also start playing around with different colors here. I'm thinking of maybe making this telephone pole a lighter color, so it goes back in space, okay? And let's see here. Yeah, I'm liking what's going on. And see how fast it is, okay? We'll go in here. I'm going to select this color here. And we'll go and pick a color here. Maybe like that. I like that. Okay. Black we can leave, or black we can actually color. Because I think this is black. Okay. But if we wanted it to be a dark brown, we could do it like that too. You know, just depending on what you're looking for. That's kind of interesting. Now we can start mixing up things too. Like I could start taking all these shapes. I'm going to select them all like this, holding down my shift key. And maybe this will become black, and we'll leave that dark brown inside. So we could just make changes as we go along. And then I'm going to select their hair. So I'm going to use my magic wand again, and we'll pick a lighter color here, okay? And we'll select their skin color, okay, and make it really light, like that. Now, it starts to compete with the sky, okay, if you notice this. And obviously, this road right here, I had not had white, so I'm going to change that back to white for the moment, okay? This line in the road, that is. All right, so one of the issues is the color for the sky and their flesh color are the same, but you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to make a gradient, okay? And the way we're going to make a gradient is we're going to go over to our gradient palette, and the default gradient is this. Okay, I don't click that. I take this color here, the last color here that I've used, and I'm going to click and just drag it down into this gradient bar, okay? And then I'm going to take this color out, because on a gradient bar here, you have to have at least two of these things here. I think they call them sliders. Yeah, gradient slider. Okay, so I'm just going to take one of them out. We'll use that. We'll change the and then we're going to change the direction by going to Edit Gradient, and it brings up our gradient there. And we're going to just change the direction of this so it goes up something like this. And we can adjust the midpoint too if we want to, so it works like that. All right, it's fairly simple, you know. And we can drag. Oh. And here's the deal, too, and I'm just going to say this, is one of the mistakes a lot of students make is when they're doing a sky, they make the lighter part on the top. And that's just the wrong thing to do. Anytime you have a sky within a simple cartoon, comic book style illustration, it's unless there's some kind of light source on top there that's a lighting up the sky there, it's best to have the sky where it's lighter at the horizon and darker at the top, okay? And that just makes it look so much better like that, okay? We can even pick a slightly different color here for the darker color if we wanted to, and drag that on up. Let's see. I'm just playing around here. Okay, you know what? I want a gradient on the road. So let's do the same thing. I'm going to take this. I selected this shape. I'm going to drag the color of the road into here, okay? And I'm going to get rid of the white color here. So like I say, you've got to have at least two colors in here. And we're going to make this, let's see here. We'll make this a darker color here, something like that. Oh, didn't want to do that. The way we have to change these colors is, whoops. See, I double clicked and then it went away. All right, there we go. I got that to pop up again. I'm going to change this by going to a slightly darker color, and it doesn't want to let me do it. So let's go to Edit Gradient. See, when we edit the gradient, this pops up, and it makes it so much easier. There we go. Now we can change colors here. I'm thinking maybe that, or maybe we'll keep it that brown. I'm just playing here. Yeah, we'll make it that, and then this one. Whoops. My problem is I get happy with clicking here on my mouse, so we'll make it that color. And then let's change the direction of that by dragging it this way, so like that. Okay, and that's not bad. I kind of like that. The other thing I want to do here is I want to go in here and I'm going to put a gradient on this, and we could put the same gradient on it if we want to. And then we'll change the direction of it. We could edit it like this. It makes it easier. Wrong way. We'll go this way. Yeah, that way. Now, I could go for even a darker color underneath there. Maybe this dark brown. And then this color can be, let's see here. This color can be maybe same color as the road. Now, one of the things we don't want to do here, and I'm going to deselect this for a moment, is we do not want to swap our values, meaning that the shadow needs to be darker than the road. You know, we don't want to switch out things where the sky becomes darker than the rocks in the ground. We don't want to do that, okay? And that's why, I kind of do this method of doing the grayscale first and then coloring things and picking colors that are similar in value. That's what's so key here. But what I'm going to do with this shadow is I'm going to go to my transparency palette. Now, I drug my transparency palette over under here in the first tutorial. If you can't find your transparency palette, it should be over here. Or you can go to Window and go all the way down and look for transparency, okay? Anyway, what I'm going to do is we're going to change our blending mode here to multiply, okay? And then I'm going to just lower the opacity just a little bit there so we can see it like that. And that is kind of cool. I like that, And I'm going to do this. I'm going to put a gradient on the ground, okay? So let's put a gradient on the ground. We'll go back to our gradient palette here. We'll drag this color into our gradient down here like that. We'll take this out and maybe we'll make another color here. We'll just drag another color down in here and get rid of that. Okay, maybe something like this, and then let's edit the gradient and change the direction of it so it goes something like this. Okay. One other thing I want to try to do too, maybe I might make this a little lighter or a little slightly different color than that. And that's it. I like that. I think we've done most everything we want to do. Now, I'm going to do one other thing here because everything's colored. I like I maintain the value of everything. I'm going to change maybe this color to something slightly brighter here, okay, since that's the tail light. Let's go in here and start playing around with color on these things for a moment. I'm going to change this to this lighter color here, okay? And then what I'm going to do is, these are strokes. That's a stroke, and this is a stroke. So I'm going to select the first outer shape stroke here. You can see the stroke there on it. And you saw I just pointed over here to this because it has no fill, it has a stroke. Remember we duplicated that shape and turned off the fill and put the stroke on it. I'm going to copy it, Command C, and paste in front, Command F. Then what I'm going to do is we're just going to put a color on it, but we got to have the stroke, bring the stroke to the front before we put that color on, okay? And then let's go down to our stroke palette and make it smaller, like that. Maybe it's 1 or 2. It could be 1.5. Let's do 1.5. Okay, there we go. All right, and then we'll do the same thing over here. And we do copy, paste in front. We'll pick the same color and then make this down to 1. So now that gives us a lot more color in there than we originally had. And I could live with that. If we want to change these colors slightly, we can. We can pick them and pick these shapes and maybe make it this lighter color here. Maybe like that. Yeah. Okay. I kind of like that. All right. So we need to name this thing here because you're going to be submitting this file in another file. Our grayscale file we won't need to submit. So we're going to go to File, and we're going to do Save As. Okay. I'm saving on my computer here. And we're going to rename this. And this is what you'll need to do is use your last name. And then we do poster color 1. Okay. We do it like that. Whoop. Okay. And so I got my name, Moyers poster color 1. You use your last name. If you want to put, because in the old days it used to have to do this, and because in the old days, the system computers would not recognize a file name if there was just a space. It had to have that. So if you want to do that, you can put that in there too. It doesn't matter. But basically, we want to save it like this. Okay. And you will submit this file. Now, we're going to do one other file here, okay? We're going to make another version so we do something like this, okay? So let's go back here, and we'll go Save As again, okay? And we're going to do, save on my computer here. For some reason it did this. We're going to save it as color 2, okay? I don't know why, yeah. Somehow I got AI in there on that one. That's okay. So we'll do that and save it. So now we're going to be doing a new color scheme here, okay? And we'll just make a new layer again, and we'll put it above the text layer. And I'm going to bring in another image here, and this will be in your D2L class. And we don't place it as a template. We just place it. I'm going to put it over here this time. And we could just pick colors off of this if we wanted to, But I'm going to do this mosaic again, okay? I kind of like doing that. I like working with the swatches. And if you don't do it with the mosaic, I'm not going to count off any points. Basically, I'm going to be just looking at your file. I won't know. I won't, I might be able to see these when they pop up over here because you're submitting your file, and so it will keep your swatches in there. But anyway, let's go and embed this, and then we'll go and do create object mosaic, and I'm going to do 4 and 4 again. Okay, so now we got all these different cool colors here, and we're going to pull this over here for the moment. Okay, or we can just delete this image too, unless we want to go back to it and pick colors off of it, later on. We could leave it in there if you want to. All right, so we're going to ungroup it, Shift Command G, or Shift Control G if you're on a PC, and then we're going to select colors off of this, and we got this eggplant color, then we got this. I'm not going to pick them all. I'm going to pick a few here. Maybe that green. Maybe this color. Yeah, I think, maybe that one too. And we'll do this one. Okay. So, anyway, I'm just picking some colors off of there. We're going to do new swatch, and yes, okay. And, again, I'm going to move this down here. We could just delete. Once we get them and we don't need them anymore, we can just delete that just so they're gone. Oops, these are the ones I didn't use. So we'll hit that, okay. And then we can arrange our swatches so that there's darkest to lightest kind of thing going on here. I just think this is kind of helpful when you're trying to maintain your value. I think that one's there. This one's going to be towards the back there. This one, if they're too similar, we can always just delete one. Okay, but anyway, this will give us some greater color range here. So first of all, we could recolor the sky. Now, I'm using this swatch method, but there are other ways to recolor this, okay? And if you use a different method, like I said, I'm not going to take off, but main things, we want it to look good, and we want the values to be consistent, okay? So if we actually just went and selected everything like this, we could go up here to recolor, okay? I've actually tried the generative color, which is an AI, and I really did not like how it came out. You know, it's like, let's see here. Yeah, this is the AI version of recoloring things, and I'm looking at these, and it's like, yeah, they're all, yeah, I'm not liking it. Uh, I picked that other one here, but anyway, I just, if I use this, I'll use it this way. Now you can move things, like if we move this all around like this, it'll just change it that way. Okay, I just want to show you these different methods here. If we wanted to alter it slightly and just make it a lighter version of its original self, we could do something like that. Like I said, we could drag this around and do this. I just want to give you some different ideas of how we can recolor things when we have to do multiple colors, okay? We could also go up to our color libraries, and we can go and do something like this, okay? That's ancient. Let's see here. Let's just pick a few more here. We'll do prehistoric. See what prehistoric. Oh, I kind of like prehistoric, actually. If we wanted to keep it within that range. Let's go to food for some reason. I don't know why they. All right, so let's do fruit. That's the fruit colors. And let's see here. Kid stuff. I don't know what kid stuff does. And I'm just playing here. We've got nature. We could do landscape. See what that does. All right. Now I'm just going to reset it. All right, so we go back to the original here. But I just wanted to show you this as a way to recolor things. The other way to recolor too is you could just use your color palette and switch up things here, okay? But anyway, I'm going to change the color of my gradient here. So let's go to our gradient palette. Have that selected. There we go. I'm going to edit gradient. And I'm going to put in here, I'm going to put one of these blues in here. Maybe, let's see, I'm just playing right here. Yeah, I like that color right there. That's nice. Now, was this, let's see here. Yeah, that was, I think, white. Yeah, that's white. Okay, that's fine. I like that. We can do the same thing with the road. All right, we'll edit gradient. Come here. And then maybe do this kind of eggplant color here. And then let's pick this color here. And we'll do something a step lighter like that maybe. So the road's kind of cooler. We'll change out the color of this to maybe this darker eggplant color here. And we'll change that one too. We'll edit gradient. And instead of using this warm color, well, we'll change it to the darker, and then change this one to something like this. And let's see what that looks like. I'm just playing around here, I don't mind that. That's kind of nice. We can change the color of the car. Okay, let's zoom in here. We'll pick the color of the car here, and which unfortunately picks up the color back here. Now, one thing I didn't tell you is that if we have a group of selected shapes and we want to deselect a shape, if you go and get your main selection tool and hold down the shift key, you can deselect it, okay? But let's change the color of the car to one of these blue colors. Maybe that. Yeah, I like that. So it's kind of similar to the sky. Or we could do the sky color here too. I love just playing around with stuff. I like keeping the sky color there. Let's change the stroke colors that we have. So we'll pick this one up. And I might as well pick this one too because it's the same one. And we'll just make sure the stroke is on top here. And we'll change it to a blue here, like that. That's looking nice. Very cool. They don't have to be wearing the same color clothes. We can put someone in. Oops, we got the stroke on the front. We can maybe she's in a brighter color like that, and the driver here may be wearing something like that. We'll keep them both blonde. Okay. Um, the flesh color. Let's look the flesh color here. We could change it to maybe a pinkish color here, or maybe this light one here. I'm just playing around. And once we get this done, oh, I noticed something here. It may have done this on the other one too. And I'll just bring that up here. Open, reset. Yeah, this one here. Okay, yeah, this had this here. All right, so you're going to have to fix something here. And that is this is overlapping this. And so go back to that file, that first color one here. And let's go down to your layers. And let's make sure that this, I think, yeah, okay. The reason why it's happening, and I don't know if you built it this way or if if yours is built this way, you'll have this overlapped here. I'm going to take both of these shadow shape colors and just bring those down to the ground. All right, there we go. I didn't notice that before, but now by recoloring, I noticed it. And so we'll come over here to the one we're working on. This is the one I'm working on. Yeah, so we'll take this, and we'll drag those pole shapes down to here. I mean, not pole shapes, but the shadow shapes down to there. Okay. Yeah, I'm enjoying this. This is the part I like doing, is coloring things. It's so cool. It's so much fun. Maybe this will be a darker blue here, maybe something like that. Maybe this will get that color there. I'm just having fun, We don't have to color those. I'm wondering about one thing here. What if I had this, just this light blue, so it goes way back in the background? Maybe we'll do that. This could be yeah, I like that light blue, I think. Like I said, I'm playing around with color here. Because sometimes this happens in nature, where as things go back, it's called atmospheric perspective. It really drops that way back there. So I just keep going back and forth here. Maybe this telephone pole here, or this power line pole, could be a bluish color here, just to sort of fade it to the back. Maybe the main telephone pole could go up and be black. I'm just playing. It's something I enjoy doing, like I said, and hopefully you do too. And so once we get everything to the way we like it, I'm going to change this text down here, and this will be my last change, I think. And what if we did something like that? All right, so once we get it to the way we like it, and we've got it saved, I'm going to hit Command S so we save it again here. This one that we've recolored, and there's still some things I could fix on it, but I'm just going to let it go, okay, because I want to finish this tutorial, is we're going to change the size, okay? So first thing we're going to do is go over to the Page tool here, this artboard tool here. We'll click on it, and in the properties, we're going to change it to 41 inches. And by 27, I believe it is, and if I'm correct, that went to 42. 27 by 41. And mind you, the proportions are not constrained. All right, there's a slash going through that. Okay, now this is actually the size. Get out of here for just a second here, and I want to make sure here. Okay, yeah, 41 by 27. So let's go back here. So this is the actual size of a movie poster in a lobby. Because I looked it up online, like how big are those posters? And so we're going to make this the size of a movie poster, okay? And next we're going to do is we're going to select everything, but before we scale anything up, well, let's scale it up. I'll show you what's going to happen here. So this has to remain in proportion, and we're going to go up to 41 inches, and that should fix this too, okay? And mind you, it's just a little bit wider than it needs to be, but that's okay, all right? And like I said, I'm still not happy with my color. I keep wanting to fix it more. You'll have more time to work on this than I'm doing right here because I'm having to. But notice this. This is what I want to talk about is I'm going to undo that because I did not fix something that I should have, and I'm going to show you what. And that is over here under Illustrator Settings. We'll go to General, and we're going to do Scale, Strokes, and Effect. Because what happened was it scaled it up, but anything that's a stroke, it just kept it the same stroke weight. When we check that right here, up under Settings, Scale, Strokes, and Effects, it will scale up the stroke. It will scale up any effect that's put on it. So you won't have that happening. So let's go over here again. We'll type in 41 for the height. And then I usually just click up on the width there. But here's the deal. We need to think about a bleed. And a bleed, anytime if you're getting something printed and you're sending it off to the printers and the images or the colors go straight up to the border, it needs to overlap it. It needs to go past it. That's called a bleed because it needs to get cut off. And so, like I said, the original proportions of my drawing were somewhat similar to this poster size, but it was just off by just a fraction. And that's okay. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to 41 here. And usually bleed can be up to a quarter of an inch on all sides. So I'm going to just do 41.5 and hit return. And so now that will all stick outside of that, okay? And then the next thing I'm going to do here is we're not finished yet, okay? Layer 7 here was where all my other things was. I'm going to keep this. I mean, if you don't have a layer, make a new layer, you can. This will be for our trim marks. We'll just call it trim marks layer, okay? All right, make sure that all your layers are unlocked and make sure all your shapes are unlocked too, okay? So we'll go to Command A, make sure nothing is locked. I haven't been locking anything. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to get the rectangle tool and we're going to come over to the page, where the page is at, right there, and click. And we're going to do 27 by 41. That's what you're going to put in that rectangle, okay? And then when you click, because it's already set like that because I'd already done it once. But change it so the rectangle is 27 inches by 41 inches. All right, we want to take off the fill. We don't want to have any stroke on it either. And then we're going to go to Object, Create Trim Marks. Okay? And so what this does is it actually will create these little trim marks. Okay? The other thing I'm going to do too is up under View, we're going to do, let's see here, height, not bounding box, but I'm always getting lost here. Oh, fit to artboard, zoom in, show transparency. Hide artboards. Okay, that's what I'm looking for. Sorry, it took so long. All right, so now we've got that. And if we go over to our trim marks here, they're all selected there. They're only 0.3 inches. 0.3, that is. We can up that to 1 point if we want to, or sometimes I do my inches at 0.5, so they need to be visible enough so that somebody could actually see them to trim that off with. But anyway, now we got this poster and we have no embedded images. Okay, I'm going to save it. So this is Moyer's poster color 2 here. And we'll take a look at, again, let's see where I can find it on my desktop here. There it is. Command I will tell us our size. Our file size is 1.3 megs, which is great. And so you should have something similar in file size. And you're going to submit both of these. You're going to submit this one, your color 1, and your color 2. Okay? And if you want to enlarge your color 1, you can. You know, if you want to enlarge it, and I don't mind you doing that. But anyway, that is our exercise.